Welcome back. I'm Chris Matthews.
And I'm Kathleen Matthews, co-anchoring with my husband, Chris, today in for Andrea Mitchell. Well, people all across America are taking time this week to celebrate an important milestone in the civil rights movement. Saturday marks the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, a massive peaceful protest in Washington, D.C., where more than 200,000 demonstrators called on Congress for jobs and freedom.
Well, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the country's charge to win civil rights and equality for all, of course, delivering his famous I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Well, this Saturday, President Obama will deliver a speech from those same steps. And joining me right now is Dr. King's son, the great Martin Luther King III, a friend of mine. Thank you, Mr. King, for coming on. Martin Luther King III joins us. The president has a tough act to follow, to put it lightly. He's got to stand on those steps where your dad stood and gave, I think after the second inaugural of Lincoln, the second greatest American speech ever given. That wasn't supposed to be the speech that day, was it?
Well, I don't know.
People tell me that he sort of was inspired, or Mahalia Jackson or somebody yelled him to tell him the dream speech, Reverend, you know, that kind of thing. It was very
That certainly is true, but he had delivered versions of that speech on several occasions. And so I think that certainly that demonstration inspired him particularly. Could I just correct one thing?
Sure.
Just for the record? The 24th is a march that Reverend Sharpton and I and others are calling for, but the president actually speaks on the 28th, which is the day Wednesday, which is the actual day that Dad delivered the I Have a Dream speech. So there are several activities that are going on. So I just wanted to contextualize. Saturday is not the actual day.
Martin, distinguish the two of them. What's their different relevance?
The difference is, I think the 28th will be a commemorative celebration. The 24th is actually people coming together to petition the government to address some of the serious issues. It still, unfortunately, really is jobs, justice, and freedom. When we look at what has happened over the last 2 months, whether it is the gutting of the Civil Rights, Voting Rights Act, excuse me, or the Trayvon Martin decision that many in America are concerned about. But the reality is, if we could find a way to put America back to work, especially young people, we could begin to address some of the serious issues that exist in our nation. 50 years later, in 1963, we had about 22 million people unemployed, living in poverty. Today, we have nearly 60 million people in 2013.
Mr. King, you know, Chris and I had the opportunity last night to see the new film, The Butler. Wonderful portrayal of your father in that film, and including the night or the day that he was shot. Such a tragic moment for America. But to watch the trajectory through the eyes of a White House butler of the civil rights movement, what he witnessed in his lifetime between the Eisenhower administration, you know, going all the way through the Reagan administration, and the progress, but also the continued challenges. I think it's such a great education for young people today. Is that why this 50th anniversary is such an important thing to commemorate, to really narrate for young people today sort of what's been won but what still needs to be fought?
Well, I certainly believe that it is. It gives us an opportunity, certainly, to look at the past, but to also talk about the future, what we must do, again, to bring our nation together. Unfortunately, there are some who believe that our nation is very divided. And we are a great nation. Americans at heart are incredible people. We know this because every time we see tragedies, whether it's a tsunami or whether it's a hurricane or a tornado, Americans roll up their sleeves and just want to help. The problem is we can't stay in crisis, nor should we all the time, but we're in crisis mode. If we responded to most of our challenges and opportunities like we respond during crisis, the best of America always is displayed. So yes, this gives us an opportunity to talk about the past, but to project what must occur in the future.
Okay, Martin Luther King III, thank you so much, Martin, for coming on the show. We'll be talking about you and to you throughout the week. Thanks for coming on.